everybody. Welcome to Godly Play. Today's story is the Good Samaritan. Before we start, let's get ready by saying our 3-breath prayer. Breathe in. In the name of the Father, breathe out. Breathe in. In the name of the Son, breathe out. Breathe in. In the name of the Holy Spirit, breathe out. Amen. You need to be very careful when you come close to a parable. It takes a lot to get ready to enter a parable. You need to be ready. We can see that the box is gold, because parables are as precious as gold. They are very valuable. Our box has a lid. A parable can have a lid kind of like a door, so that you have to be ready to enter. Sometimes, even when you're ready, you cannot get into a parable. But keep trying again and again, and someday the parable will open for you. This box could also look like a gift, because parables are gifts. It was a gift that was given to you before you were even born. Parables are older than your parents. They are older than your grandparents. Parables are so old that they are over 2,000 years old. I wonder if a parable is in this box. Let's find out. I wonder what this could be. It does kind of look like a Hershey bar, doesn't it? Or maybe a yoga mat? I could see that too. A chocolate lake? Okay. It is very, very brown. There is no green or blue. I wonder what this is. It could be a belt or a scarf. It does kind of look like a big lasagna noodle. It could be a crack that divides this part from that part. I wonder what these are. They're black and shadowy, kind of like rocks. Once, there was someone who did such amazing things and said such wonderful things that people followed him. And as they followed him, they asked him many questions. One of the questions someone asked Jesus once was, "Jesus, what is the most important thing in life?" And Jesus said to him, "You already know the answer." And he replied, "I do. It is to love God and to love my neighbor." But who is my neighbor? So Jesus began to explain by telling a story called a parable. He said, one day there was a man traveling down the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. And as this man traveled, two robbers jumped out and they hurt him very badly. They robbed him and stole all of his things, and then they left him half dead on the side of the road. Also coming down the road that day was a priest from the temple. And as he got to the man who had been beaten and robbed and left half dead, he crossed to the other side of the road and continued on his journey. Then another man came down the road, and he worked at the temple. He helped the priests. He took care of the things around the temple and the music. He was a Levite. As he came to the man who had been beaten and robbed and left half dead, he too crossed the street and continued on his journey. Finally, coming down the road that day was a Samaritan, a man from Samaria. Now, the Samaritans did not like the people from Jerusalem. And people from Jerusalem did not like Samaritans. They did not get along at all. But as this Samaritan man came across the man who had been beaten and robbed and left half dead, he stopped to help him. He covered his wounds with medicine and wrapped him in his own jacket. And then he loaded him on his donkey and had the donkey carry him to Jericho. Once in Jericho, the Samaritan man took him to an inn and made sure his wounds were tended to and that he was fed. The next morning, the Good Samaritan went on his way, but he paid the innkeeper to take care of the man and feed him and house him until he was well. Now I wonder, which of these men was a neighbor to our poor beat up man, our traveler? Was it these two guys? Was the priest his neighbor? Was the Levite his neighbor? I wonder if the Samaritan who took care of him was his neighbor. I wonder who was the neighbor to the robbers. That's a lot harder, isn't it? I wonder who was the Levite's neighbor. Who was the priest's neighbor? I wonder, do you think this story would have been any different if it had been about women instead of men? Hmm. I wonder, what would have happened if it had been children who had come across the beaten man? I wonder, where did you see yourself in our story? Thank you for joining me.